I've been working with branding for more than 8 years now, and this is the most common mistake I've seen throughout the industry. When I started my business back in 2014, I thought this was happening because I was dealing with smaller players, with companies that had just started their business and wasn't still very reassured about their branding and their strategy. So they were still building it. However, as time went by and I started having bigger customers, bigger clients, some of them even global players, and this kept happening, I realized this was really a common brand mistake. And I want to tell you, but before we dig into that, let's restart and recap what branding really is. I think one of the most simple ways to put it out is to remember that branding is the definition of who you are. And when we talk about the definition of who we are as companies, it can get really hard. But it's the aspects that make you unique and that truly stand out in the middle of the crowd that make your brand strong. So when we talk about branding and when we talk about these definitions, it doesn't really matter if you're still a small company or if you're already an international player. If you have very clear in your mind what makes you unique, that's halfway through. However, that's something you build through consistency. When you're being consistent, and that's, for example, if you have a store, in the way your store look, but also in your package, in your social media, in your website, in the way you talk to customers, in your email after they have a purchase, sometimes even in your receipt. All those touch points are building the appearance of your brand. And I'm not only talking about design, I'm talking about the definition of who your brand is in your customer's mind. And that's the science behind branding. That's what makes branding so nice. And consistency is something really hard, especially if you are an entrepreneur. You know how daily basis can be a crazy rush, and you still need to deal with that. You still need to be consistent in every movement you make because you are building something. You are building a space in your customer's mind, and you want to be remembered in a certain way. So branding is the definition of who you are, while marketing is the strategy to make the whole world know about it. And when we talk about developing this consistency, developing who your brand really is, it gets tougher and tougher because marketing is always changing. Market is always changing. So there's this certainty that the changes your company will experience will certainly affect who you are and who your brand really is. However, when you stay true to who you really are, these changes will help you grow. Because even though everything is changing, you are still anchored in that space in your customer's mind, in your customer's heart, if we're talking about feelings here. So, back to that mistake I was telling you about. It doesn't matter how big the company is, changes will happen. However, if you don't stay true to yourself, to who you really are as a company, your values, the things you really believe, and I'm not only talking about like putting your mission on your website, but really sticking to what defines you and using that as your bigger advantage, the market changes will certainly make your company fail. And this is a mistake I've been seeing throughout the industry. It doesn't matter if it's a small company that has just started or if it's a business that was built upon years. When market changes, and it does with AI, with new players, with new products, it changes all the time. There is just one way to stand strong, and that is using all this time and effort that you've been used throughout all the time in the market to define your brand in your favor. So changes will come in, but don't let them make your brand fall apart. If you are rebranding yourself, it's a different scenario. But if you just want to stay strong to who you really are, to your personality, to the customers you already have and are loyal to your brand, you have to define who you are. And that is something so hard because it's not only the founder's personality, it's also whoever is involved. It's also every touch point. It's also every post you do on your Instagram. but it's also this big definition that pushes the company forward. And if you don't have that, you have nothing. I'm Lucas Alban, I'm the founder of Serafina, and we've been helping clients in more than 10 countries now. These 550 clients we have are based in many different places. They have different cultural backgrounds, different sizes, markets, strategies, but they've all been through the same challenges. And I'm sure your brand will face them as well. So I've just started this YouTube channel as a way to share some of the thoughts we've been having, some of the lessons we've learned, and I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel, stay in touch, and certainly you'll learn some more and apply this to your brand. I'll see you soon.